Welcome to another exciting episode of the Million Dollar Peddlers. I'm Paper Guy, and today we're going to continue the Anti-Bolo series. For anybody who didn't see the first one, definitely do seek it out. It's a concept that I had that I think will help me and help you. And basically what I do is I bring up items that sold, so they did actually sell. However, I take a look at them and say, why did they take so long to sell? What did I do wrong? What can we learn from my mistakes so that you don't make the mistakes and I don't continue to make the mistakes? I do see a couple of different trends that I'll be bringing up this video, but we'll take it away with Wonderland Winter 2002, a treasury of nostalgia, catalog, gifts, and collectibles. As I've noted in the other Anti-Bolo video, one of the problems was back in the day, you could only put one picture up without paying extra money. And I believe it was $0.25 for a second picture. So a lot of these listings, you'll notice, are long tail. They took a long time to sell, but I only had one picture up because if you're paying $0.25 a month, as you were back at that time, end of a year, you're paying $3 in order to sell the item. Well, I was asking $12.11 on this. 3 years, if it took 3 years to sell, I would actually lose money on the item. So I would only put one item or would only put one picture up. Another thing for those few of us that still have really long tail items, do take a look at your prices. I had noticed a while ago when I checked that I had a lot of items listed at $24.99. Now, you may say, Paper Guy, why did you have those items all priced at $24.99? Because when you listed items up to $24.99, there was one cost for them. Everything $25 and higher, there was a little bit higher cost to list the item back in the day. And those are things that I've talked about in the past as far as legacy goes. I'm saddled with the legacy because I've got old items that I would have priced at $24.99 because it was something like a nickel or something like that extra. But when you multiply that out over 12 months, you're at 60 cents a year. 5 years, you're at $3, et cetera, on things that are not fast sellers to start with. So I priced them at $24.99. Maybe it was a case of penny wise, pound foolish. I don't know. It certainly was a case on eBay's end of being penny wise and pound foolish because they were having people list stuff for $24.99 when maybe they would have otherwise listed them at $29 or $32 or that. So that's one thing that I do have in my defense is I kind of was listing things with the rules of the time. It's easy now to look back on them and say, well, you should have put multiple pictures up. And well, I should have, but maybe not at $0.25 a picture. But this is a bad listing. It ended up selling for $8. And then I had another not quite as bad listing on a Wonderland catalog that I had listed in 2017 or thereabouts that they also paid $8 for. So they did buy two of them. But the big problem with this over here is you don't really know what it is. This is a treasury of nostalgia catalog, gifts and collectibles. Even without extra pictures, if you look down there, the big word there is doll makers. I should have listed that these were dolls. Certainly more people would search on a doll catalog than search on treasury of nostalgia. But more people would search on dolls than on treasury of nostalgia or collectibles catalog. So even right there, I did a poor job of listing. All I did really was just write what was on the cover. In fact, if you take a look there, that's exactly grown-up gifts and collectibles. Just a bad listing altogether. Certainly could have gotten more money out of it. Speaking of bad listings, Little Folks Monthly Magazine, February 1914, cute girl cover. Well, it very well may be true, but how many people are searching on cute girl cover? My price was very, very low, $13.16. I believe I ended up taking $8 on it because the person bought 4 or 5 Little Folks magazine. Apparently they really liked cute girl cover because I believe every single one of them said that. And in fact, if you look up here high with the other listings, cute girl cover, cute girl cover, cute girl cover. So I think I would kind of picked up a pile of these, didn't know what to say about them. So I just did that. Again, that was back before I was doing a table of contents. So we only had one picture. And I did not pull the table of contents up to see, is there something else in there? Is there a hook in there? There must have been no famous authors. I'm sure I would have looked for that. But beyond that, I could have done such a better job. And if I had more time and the inclination, I probably should go back and change all of the, oh, there's one that changed a little bit. Girl with, cute girl cover. Just a bad listing. Sometimes you just don't know what to say. And you put that, just a word like that, cute girl cover, that I could have done a whole pile of them with. So it did speed up my listing. But bad listings fast is not a really good way to go. Next item we have up over here, and Model Railroad Magazine, lot of 15, 1960s to 2000s. This, in a lot of ways, really is an anti-Bolo. Train magazines, generally, especially model train ones, are very, very poor magazines to sell in general. Now, I was asking $32.11, so it took 11 years to sell. I basically had priced them at $2 a magazine in the lot. I took an offer, I believe, $25 on it, so I got $1.75. It only took me 11 years to do so. Now, I did put up multiple pictures on this one over here. I believe that I went back and I did revise the listing once it wasn't costing extra for pictures, and I said, oh, I got to put some extra pictures up. Little insider tip that I didn't used to do, and it really caused a lot of trouble for me. Now, I did down below list what all of the magazines were. But if you do list a lot like this, take it and bag it together, so they're all together in a bag, especially if you're listing similar lots, because as time goes on, the lots end up mixed together. It just happens. You move them to look for something else. One gets out of place, ends up on the top of the pile. And then all of a sudden, you've got a gigantic mess of trying to figure out exactly what was in that lot. Try to keep them in the same order. Also, if you do not bag them, try to keep them in the same order, because obviously when I listed them, they were in this order on the pile. Well, at least that way it makes it easier when I go and I find the magazine, the pile of the magazine, and say, is this the right one? Yep, that one's on top, this one's second, this one's third, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing that I did back in the day that I would not do now, Feb instead of February, Sept instead of September. I just kind of wasn't looking at the search very much, and was just figuring, well, people are going to find it. I guess I would jump into step 2. People are going to find it, and they're going to know that Feb means February. I didn't really save a lot of time by not typing it out, so don't make that mistake as well. The next thing we have up over here is Finger Lakes Magazine. Now, I've talked regularly about how local magazines do well. This could have done a lot better had I done a better listing. Again, one picture. Did go for $11.12, so that's took 10 years to sell. I do have $4 shipping on it. Did list Corning LPGA Classic, which is fine, but I wasted space right over here with the May-June. Back in the day, again, I was a stickler for, oh, it's May to June. I could have just put May down there. I probably at this point would pull the word magazine out, figuring it's in the magazine area. Nobody is searching on Finger Lakes Magazine. They're just not doing that. That's not a search term. And if you look over here, you've got Soaring at Harris Hill, which will sell that because people do buy Harris Hill stuff. I know that now. So I would definitely replace, put Harris Hill Soaring, take magazine out and June out, and I'd have a much better chance of selling it. If I do get another one of these, it will not take me 10 years to sell. The next item that I bring up over here is something or other that, just because of where I grew up at, which is in America, I was at a disadvantage. Many years ago, 10 years ago, as a matter of fact, I bought a large collection of football or soccer here in America programs, and I did well on them. I did up making money out of them. This did sell for the $13.12 plus $3 shipping. Again, only one picture, way it was back then. But here's where I have a disadvantage. If you were to hand me a baseball program, or you were to hand me a football program or basketball program, I can take a quick look at the names. We'll take a college program to be perfect. I can run through it, and if there's anybody in there that made it big in the pros, I would know their name, and I would say, "Oh my goodness, this is whoever. This is Michael Jordan's college program." Everybody obviously knows Michael Jordan, but some lesser star who actually still made it well. I would take a look and say, these are the people that I want to highlight. I have no idea who played for Sunderland AFC. I have no idea who played for Blackpool. I have no idea who was mentioned in there that would have been the stars that sold it. So that put me at a disadvantage for where I live at and not having the background in soccer. It still sold. Could it have sold faster had I known the proper people to highlight? Yes. And again, I did make the mistake over here. I said NOV instead of spelling November out, and that's probably because of the lack of room. I could have just put one V, or instead of VS, I could have put V. I didn't even really need to do that. I probably could have just said, the two team names. I correctly spelled program the British way, but didn't need to. So I wasted a couple of spaces there. And I also put the hyphen after it, which I would not do now. You take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a space there, 6 out. I could have spelled November out. Would have been a little better listing just doing that. And that's leaving out if there were anybody else that was really famous in there. Obviously, I would have found a way to crowbar their name in there as well. Sometimes you run into an item that there's really not a lot to say. And I've studied this item because I left a lot of space that I could have put more things in. And it's a L. Hostak or Hostak boxing exhibit card 1950s. One picture, which is fine because the back is blank. These are blank back. One thing that I could have mentioned is heavy bag. Another thing that I could have mentioned is arcade, because a lot of times they would have these at the arcades, and you would put your nickel in or whatever it cost, and you would get some cards out of it, and this would have been distributed that way. So I could have said Al Hostak boxing heavy bag arcade exhibit card 1950s. Probably not going to drive a lot more traffic to it, but would have filled it up a little bit more. Because again, there's not a lot to say. Maybe I could have said condition in it, VG or whatever, fine, whatever the condition happens to be. Maybe I could have said that as well. But sometimes you do run into an item that there's just not a lot to say. And I do feel guilty putting up a title that's that short, but sometimes there's not a lot of filler you can put into it. So from time to time, you are going to end up with a short title. Don't feel bad about that. It just happens occasionally. And the last item we have is another one of those type situations, but I made a big mistake in it. The Gentleman's Magazine, March 1903, Crete under the Venetians, 1204 to 1669. I did use all of the space, but when you take a look at what's in there, I don't know what I could have chosen better. I do not know the names of any of those authors. Maybe I could have said London. Maybe I could have said Madame Roland, Inns. I mean, there's various things there that I could have used, but none of them are good. None of them are going to drive a lot of traffic. Where I made the mistake is this is a magazine from March 1903. It's not a common magazine by any means. There are not a lot of them out there. You're going to be hard-pressed to sell this magazine. That being said, you get it in a collection. Price it at more than $13.13. I am certain that I could have priced it and sold it. I mean, it did take 9 years to sell, but whoever found it and wanted it. If I had priced it at $20.13, they probably would have paid that, or at least offered $15 on it. So that is a case where I looked at it. I said, there's really nothing to sell this. There's no hook to sell it. I listed it, and I listed it low, treating it as though it didn't have a lot of value. I got my price, which was low, and didn't show a lot of value, because that's the way I treated the item. Should have listed it at 20, should have listed it at 25, something or other like that, because it is a rare item. And the person that wants it. And that's what it comes down to. They're not going to be able to find another one. Be absolutely nothing wrong with raising the price on something or other like this and waiting. I had to wait 9 years as it is to get $13. I might as well waited 9 years to get $20. Um, so hopefully this all helps you. Again, there's a lot involved in the listing, and I've made a lot of errors throughout the year or years. So I'm trying to move on from making these errors, and hopefully these videos help you so you don't make the same errors. Do hit the like button if you could. Do comment down below. I do like providing these videos. Well, actually, to be honest, I don't like providing these videos, and I wish I had no content for them. Unfortunately, I made a lot of errors throughout the years. We shall see you next video.